Somebody's got a case of the Mondays. Or should I start singing? Integrity, integrity, integrity farms. Ha! Welcome in, everybody. Orange and blue today, 3:30 p.m. Mountain Time. I am your host, Cecil Lammey, and Andrew Mason is on a much-deserved vacation this week. He did say, he might try to pop in this week, and I was like, dude, no. Unless you really, really want to. We got plenty to talk about. Gonna recap the Super Bowl today. Gonna give you 3 lessons that the Denver Broncos can take away from the Super Bowl because they're not there yet. But yeah, I told Mace, I was like, dude, you're gonna take a break, man. They're running you into the ground. So, take a break. And for someone who, does this, and, I often tell people, maybe people that aren't as closely following the NFL, when I say, what do you do for a living? And I'm like, I cover football. And they go, oh, you must have a bunch of time off. And I'm like, not really. Tomorrow, even though I will be working, I have 2 jobs, so it's weird. But tomorrow will be the first day I've had off since July. Even though I am working technically still because I'm doing the show. So I don't know. I'll have a day off in next July. And I'll take about the month off. But either way, Andrew Mason is on assignment. And by on assignment, I hope that means he's sitting right near the beach, boy. I'm in a mood today because everybody's 0-0. I wrote about it in Mile High Monday today. You can check it out at denversports.com. It's 0-0 time, man. It's the Super Bowl is done, and I'll give my thoughts on the Super Bowl. But it's everybody gets to start fresh. Did I sound like that that one girl from Forrest Gump when they're about ready to celebrate New Year's Eve? Everyone gets a fresh start. She tasted like cigarette. Anyway, I told you, I'm in a mood. Maybe I should cut down on my caffeine intake. I don't know. But I'm in a great mood because it is time for the draft. It is time for the offseason. And instead of Kansas City and Philadelphia, or let's just say Philadelphia and the Denver Broncos, it's now George Paton versus Howie Roseman. And I know where I'd put my chips down on that GM. And I think this Super Bowl highlights the failures of George Paton, who got a pass pretty much the first couple of years. And I like George. I want to be very clear about that. But I'm also not going to blow bubbles at the guy, because part of the reason what made me sick about this past year was how the spin from the team came forth to the fan base, and y'all are suffering, okay? Y'all are long-suffering Broncos fans. This is weird. It's weird. It's in the Browns, not the Jaguars, whatever, although the Jaguars seem to be on the right track, to be sure. But this is odd for Broncos country. So rather than get them notes from the team, and do not be mistaken, and I'll piss off a bunch of people when I say this, but I don't care because they'll be all right and I'll be all right. The team will basically tell you what to say in ways without necessarily telling you what to say. So when you hear people say the team never tells us what to say, that's partially true. It's partially true. It even happens on the fan, okay? Because there are PR people that talk to people on the fan, and that gets ideas to change, and it gets narratives to change, just like the team wants. And back during training camp, Jake Shapiro tweeted about it yesterday. My man, Jake. And he was like, I heard Cecil Lammey say Isaiah Pacheco in the 7th everyday training camp. It made me sick. I get it. I've been a little bit over the top. Why? You saw it yesterday, man. You saw the difference that young runner made for the Kansas City Chiefs. And I hate the Chiefs. Chiefs fans hate me, and I'm fine with that. I hate them right back. I love Pat Mahomes, love his skill. Actually met him before he was drafted. His agent, Lee Steinberg, is an associate. I don't want to call Lee a friend, but it's a Super Bowl party. And it was Minnesota, right? We're going back. And here we go. Yeah, it's young Pat Mahomes. So, I appreciate his skill set. He's the closest thing we've seen since John Elway. And I don't want to be a prisoner of the moment. because so many people are like, Pat Mahomes, we've never seen this before. If you say that, you never saw John Elway play. And certainly John Elway in his heyday. John Elway in the late 90s was a different player. He learned how to throw with touch, something that all those guys with broken fingers and the Elway cross that you used to get when he'd rocket that ball into your chest. But like, yeah, Pat Mahomes is John Elway, basically, with that athleticism, with that will to win, that toughness, that rocket arm, off platform stuff. Like, John Elway was special, special, special. And before Tom Brady broke my soul, thanks, Tom, I always said, John Elway's the best quarterback in NFL history. If we talk about pure physical standpoint, Dan Marino had the quickest release. Elway might have the strongest arm of all. And he had scrambling ability because, like, Steve Young was a scrambler. Randall Cunningham was a scrambler. Those guys didn't have the arm that Elway did. Randall was close. But, like, if you just say best quarterback of all time, I think people are prisoners of the moment. I'll get to that when I talk about the Chiefs dynasty, which I don't think is there yet, but whatever. Like, they won it all, and congrats to them. People are going to talk about the call as I jump around. It's been 6 minutes. I've had like 17 different topics. Again, I apologize, but I'm feeling it today, man. It's post Super Bowl. It was a hell of a game. The call was a penalty, and I think it shouldn't have been called. At the end of a game and something like that, people would say the ball was uncatchable anyway, which is debatable. That's fine. I just think at that moment, it's like the end of an NBA game. They're going to be a little extra, like Mr. Coach Klein. You're going to be a little awfully physical, So, like, at the end of a game, yeah, Bradbury, who even admitted that he grabbed Juju Smith-Schuster, like, yeah, it was a penalty. Should it have been called then? Probably not. It's such a key, important part of the game. And it doesn't mean Kansas City wouldn't have won anyway. It just would have given Philadelphia more time to at least tie it up, maybe go to overtime, or maybe win it in regulation. And I would have loved to see that. I was really entertained by that Super Bowl. Like, going into the game, I can't stand Kansas City. And Philly fans are obnoxious. I know one of my good buddies, shout out Keith, is a big Eagles fan. He's from back there. But it's like, okay, y'all are a little much. Anyone get thrown in jail at your stadium? Because that's what happens in Philadelphia. But anyway, like, so I'm not really a fan of Philly fan. Although, I like Miles Sanders or whatever. AJ Brown is that dude. He's incredible. Absolutely incredible. Jalen Hurts saw at the Senior Bowl. Although he didn't have a great week of practice. Justin Herbert was there that year as well. So, like, going into this Super Bowl, I wasn't like, I wanted the Eagles to win just because you don't want the Chiefs to win anything. But I felt the Chiefs would win. I was like, the Eagles haven't faced anybody on their way. The Chiefs have gone and battled through the crucible. They've had real battles and they've come through. And so I gave the advantage to Kansas City, even though I didn't want them to win because I can't stand their fan base, whatever. So, like, you look at the way that game shook out, and it was so fun and so exciting and so edge of your seat. Halftime show was pretty boring. And I say this, I'm a big metalhead, although I like all sorts of music, George Strait to Deicide or whatever. Maybe not Deicide as much, but Testament had a few death metal albums, including their traditional Bay Area thrash metals. That's my favorite type of music, is Bay Area thrash metal. Like a Testament, like a Death Angel, stuff like that. But anyway, I'm getting off track. I saw Rihanna at the Pepsi Center, and it was almost the best concert I've ever seen. Like, so going into this, I'm not a Rihanna hater. I think it's dumb when people, you're a hater. No, I just didn't think it was that good. Of course, she was pregnant, whatever. Probably can't dance around a whole bunch or whatever. Like, but what she have, like, one outfit that just kept whatever. I don't even know. And the dancers were just whatever. Like, it was okay. But it wasn't great by any means. It's overdone. So I think we all can, talk about things realistically, just like the Broncos. I just don't like the group think with the Broncos or even with the halftime show. But it was the greatest way to go, Riri. I'm like, nah, Rihanna, I've seen you do better. I've seen you do much better. So halftime show is whatever, but I don't watch the Super Bowl for the flipping halftime show. I'm a football guy. Now I'm different. The commercials were fine. They got a chuckle here or there, teared up here or there, like whatever. But the game was really good. The game was really good because you saw a team in Philadelphia, and I'll get into my article at denversports.com, the 3 lessons the Broncos can learn from the Super Bowl. But you had a team in Philadelphia that had 70 sacks on the year. Now, I know it's 17 games, but the record is 72. And the record is held by a little team called the Chicago Bears from the mid-'80s. Now, not the 85 Bears, the 84 Bears. But that stretch, 84, 85, 86, those Chicago Bears were maybe the best defense ever assembled. That's why you don't hear that. There's 2000 Ravens, there's 2015 Broncos, and there's 85 Bears. There's those 3 defenses, and you can judge them all the same. The Bears probably lasted the longest. The Ravens had a couple different incarnations of their defense. But either way, what the Eagles had done in terms of rushing the passer was outstanding. And Patrick Mahomes was sacked 0 times on a bum ankle. His ankle was shot, especially in the second quarter when he got pulled down after a run. Probably got a little Toradol in the locker room and wasn't able to feel anything for a few hours and was out there and played well in the second half and led him on the way. Now, how did they win? Why did they win? I'll get to that. But I just wanted to say, I was so entertained by this Super Bowl. This Super Bowl was outstanding. And then the final call. So again, it is a penalty. Speaking of groupthink, just turned on Twitter because I was complaining about the refs before halftime. And I was like, please don't let them ruin this Super Bowl. It's really entertaining. And then as that call was made in the defensive holding, Twitter, oh my God, this is NFL's fixed. It's part of the script or whatever. And the Chiefs have benefited from calls, to be sure. I think even Mace tweeted about that last night. I don't want to hear the Chiefs complain about the officials ever again. I get that. There's nothing untrue about that statement. But at the same time, Bradbury held him. So, should it have been called? No. Was it defensive holding? Yes. And even Bradbury admits as such. So, I'm not here to debate that or be like, the NFL's fixed or this is terrible for the sport or whatever. Okay, what are the Chiefs won? Can we move on, please? Can we move on? And can we get away from Kansas City being the dominant force in the AFC? Can someone, please, for the love of God, step up and knock the Chiefs off their throne? Will it be Cincinnati? Will it be Buffalo? Dare I say, can Denver actually beat them? Pat Mahomes has never lost to the Denver Broncos. I'd like that to change stat. ASAP. As soon as possible. I would love nothing more than if Sean Payton goes 2-15 in 2023. Now, wait a second. You may be saying, hey, Cease, you've been drinking too much caffeine. Talk about that Tegrity Farms. What's going on? 2-15. Wait. Shh. The 2 would be against Kansas City. If they beat Kansas City both times, lost every other game, I'm fine. I kid, but I'd be fine. Kansas City's not yet a dynasty. I'll get there. They'll get their underwear in a twist, the lemon twist. But you got to win 3 to be a dynasty. My opinion, you don't have to do what New England did with Tommy Brady. No one's ever going to do that again. But you need 3. You need 3. Steelers had 4 in 6 years. The 49ers had 4 in 7 years. The Cowboys had 3 in 4 years. Those are dynasties. New England, obviously the dynasty from Brady era, whatever, 2001 to 2018. Okay, no one's going to do that again. So how do I define a dynasty? 3 rings. 90s Cowboys, 80s 49ers, 70s Steelers. You don't get 3. Does anyone talk about Ben Roethlisberger with Super Bowl 40 and Super Bowl 43? If they had done it in Super Bowl 45, you could make that argument. But they lost to Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers' only ring is Super Bowl 45 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I hated that game. But so my perfect example is Ben Roethlisberger, first round quarterback, great, Big Ben, whatever. Don't talk about him off field because it's awful. But okay, is that a dynasty? Were the Steelers a dynasty with Big Ben? No. Why do we have to call the Chiefs a dynasty? Everyone is a prisoner of the moment and it sucks, right? This is the greatest ever. I love this ever. That's, if you look at it and you go, can we talk about history Can we talk about the game? Like, I think it actually disrespects the history of the game when something happens. It's like, he's the best ever. Remember, I'll bring up a name that might trigger some people, but I remember when Colin Kaepernick came out and, Jim Harbaugh figured out how to work with him and the pistol, and people started saying he's going to revolutionize the game. I'm like, they brought the pistol from college. It's not revolutionary, okay? And I thought Kaepernick definitely played up to the most of his abilities with Jim Harbaugh. Obviously, they went to the Super Bowl, almost won the damn thing. But at that moment, when some of my colleagues in the media were like, he's going to revolutionize the game, Robert Griffin III, there's a less controversial figure. Robert Griffin III, he's going to revolutionize. Mike Shanahan didn't like working with him, but he found what worked and he made it work. And then RG3 went to his office the next year with a stack of plays and was like, I'm not running these. It's like, really? Really? Okay. So we need to calm down on the whole revolutionize. It's a dynasty. It's the greatest ever. And don't get me started on LeBron Jordan talk, because it's always Jordan. It's always Jordan. But at least LeBron has had the longevity, right? And I'm not necessarily against LeBron. I think he's more Magic than Michael. I just think this whole talk of like, it's the GOAT, it's the GOAT, it's the GOAT, it's the GOAT. Can we stop? Are we farmers? What are you, Farmer Fran? Right? Old McDonald? Who are you? Why do we got to talk about goats all the time? Like, can we just enjoy it? Can we just enjoy football? And with the Chiefs, it's like, that was an enjoyable Super Bowl. I hate that the Chiefs won, though, but they're not a damn dynasty. Get another ring, and then we'll talk. If the Steelers had won Super Bowl 40, 43, and 45, that, my friends, is a dynasty. The Steelers won 40, and they paid off the refs because Seattle. I'm like, oh, God. Seattle fans are so annoying. Totally annoying after Super Bowl 40. They paid off that Paul Allen could buy the Rooney family like 10 times over. RIP to Paul Allen. But, Super Bowl 40, you talk about someone paying off the refs. How about you look at Seattle with way more money than the Rooney family? Either way, if the Steelers had won 40, 43, 45, they're a dynasty. They didn't win 45. They're not a dynasty. They're a really good team. They avoided New England those years. You want to trigger a Steelers fan, just be like, hey, when did you go through New England? Because the answer is they didn't. I had to worry about Indianapolis and Mike Vanderjagt, that idiot kicker, all that kind of stuff. Like, so, the Steelers dodged the greatest team of that era on their way to their 3 Super Bowl appearances and 2 Super Bowl wins. They're not a dynasty. The Kansas City Chiefs are damn close to a dynasty. Okay, so if you're a Chiefs fan, I hate you. Rah! And I'll tell you the history of this. Then I got to get in my article. Holy cow, I'm already at 20 minutes on this show. Sorry. I wrote a fantasy column for the Rocky Mountain News. Does that make me sound old? One, it's a newspaper. I feel sorry for all my friends that work for newspapers because I'm like, oh, okay. Anyway, don't get me off on that tangent. I wrote a fantasy column for the Rocky Mountain News, and whoever wrote the headline, because I didn't write the headlines, and it was a fairly large section in the sports section on Sunday mornings. And so like the headline of the fantasy section was like, Lammey says Chiefs can't get it done, or something like that, right? I think somebody asked me about Tony Gonzalez or whatever. So like the headline was, Lammey says Chiefs suck ass, or whatever. It didn't say that, but you know what I mean. So all these Chiefs fans, I got a lot of strongly worded letters, or should I say emails, from Chiefs fans that were misspelled because they're dumb. And so ever since then, Chiefs fans hate me. I hate them. Like, whatever. I don't care. It's Kansas City, as Sean Payton said, because Nathaniel Hackett is so dumb. So dumb. Am I going to get in trouble for that? Like, hey, all I know is I talk to people that used to work with him in the NFL, and they're like, the dude's a clown. But Nathaniel Hackett is so dumb that he can't even be like, no, how much can I get away with on this show? There's a certain spelling of a certain word that supplements the CK for the KC. Can I say that? Anyway, you know what I mean. Forget you, KC. How about that? That cleaned it up for podcasting purposes. But yeah, forget you, KC. Go win another one, and then we'll talk. Then you will be a dynasty. But right now, not a dynasty. Right now, really good Super Bowl. Really good. I feel bad for Philadelphia. They fought their ass off. Jalen Hurts fought his ass off. But at the end of the day, you were outrushed by the other team. Why? Isaiah Pacheco. I mean, it's just the fact George Payton didn't draft him. Speaking of dumb, that's just dumb. Doesn't mean George Payton's dumb. It just means that was a dumb decision. Hey, let's get Delarian Turner Yell instead of Tariq Woolen. Imagine Tariq Woolen and Isaiah Pacheco on this team. How many times do I have to say it? Say it with your chest. Now, I'm not going to the scouting combine this year. And yes, that makes me upset. I'll be an open book on this show. I'll bare my soul for all you in the audience. I'm pissed off I don't get to go to the scouting combine this year. But that being said, if I was there and I got to talk to George Payton, I'd ask him. I'd either ask him off the record or on the record, but I would find a moment to ask him. I almost did last summer, but I don't want to be that jerk. Plus, that was in training camp. They hadn't done anything. Now that we have a year of Tariq Woolen leading the league in interceptions and Isaiah Pacheco starting for Super Bowl champion, being the leading rusher in the Super Bowl, like now with history and some track record behind, I just asked George, like, what did they not show you? Like, what do you learn from the lessons of missing on Tariq Woolen and missing on Isaiah Pacheco? I think that's a fair question. That doesn't mean I know more than George Payton and blah, blah, blah. Like, it's not about that. And it's always laughable to me when people try to use that as some sort of like attack against me. You're not a real scout. You're right. What? Like, okay, I've consulted for a few teams, never the Broncos. I'm always clear about that. But these guys know way more. I'm a media guy that has no pressure on him the way that they have pressure. And again, I've told the story of my friend Matt Littlefield, who helped build Kansas City, got fired, and because he made so much money, he's a banker now in Chicago. He helped build the Chiefs, got fired, was so expensive he'd never worked in the NFL again. And it's been 10 years. So, he didn't build the Chiefs with Mahomes, but it was the, building up to Alex Smith, Jamal Charles, part of that draft. Matt, hell of an eye for talent. But that scouting world, the NFL's got a bunch of good old boy networks. We usually talk about it with coaches like, oh, it's a good old boy network. Yeah, you're right. It is. It is with coaches. It's that way with scouts too. Sometimes it's family members that get jobs that real good people should have. And they don't want to pay scouts. They call it 25 for 25. 25,000 a year for 25-year-olds. Plus you travel 250 days a year. So I give my hat. I would take my hat off, but my hair's a mess. Where's that one guy on Facebook's like, you and Mace wearing hats? It like triggered him. I think he was like a Chiefs fan or something. Like, what are you wearing hats for? Get out of here with your hats. I just do this so I don't have to do anything with my hair. But either way, what was I talking about? Oh, the Chiefs. All right. They won, whatever. Forget UKC and let's go Broncos. Right? Now, how do you get there? How do you beat up on Kansas City? And there's 3 lessons that I believe the Broncos and Sean Payton should learn from the Super Bowl. It's one of my latest at denversports.com. I have 3 articles up today. One, Mile High Monday. And thank you all for reading Mile High Monday. It's a joy. And yes, I do drive around with my top off of my Jeep. Not mostly in the winter. I got my hard top on right now. But yeah, I love my old Jeep Wrangler TJ. It was the last of the good Jeeps. Apologies to everyone drive a Jeep. And do the damn Jeep wave. If you drive a Jeep and I see you, and not a Liberty or a Cherokee, but I mean an actual Jeep, like a Wrangler, okay? Not even a Rubicon, whatever. The mullet ones. If I see you and you're in a Wrangler, and yes, it can be a Rubicon, Sahara, whatever, and I do the Jeep wave, you better wave back, okay? It's a Jeep thing you wouldn't understand. But the last good Jeeps were the TJs. 97 to 2006. I happen to have a 99 Sahara. I love it. My first new vehicle back in the day was a 98 TJ Sport. And I love that too. So yes, I love riding Mile High Monday. I do think about sports when I drive in my Jeep because it takes my mind off of things. Get me on a dirt road, get me on some sort of trail, get me up in the mountains. Like that's off-roading. That's exactly where it's at. You can think about everything, whatever. So I wrote Mile High Monday. I wrote How far off is the offense in Denver from the offenses you see in Kansas City and Philadelphia? I'll talk about that article tomorrow. But today, quickly, because I only have 5 minutes left, it's the 3 lessons that you should have learned from the Super Bowl. Balance is important. The Chiefs won it all because they had balance on offense. And this is a team that was down by 10 at the half. Eddie. Now, when you're down by 10, you think, we got to go into pass mode. Pass, pass, pass. No. You have to score. Okay. You have to score those touchdowns. But you need to be patient with the ground game, and something that Andy Reid, and I put this on Reid, it used to be on Mahomes a couple of years ago. Mahomes would get down and he'd go into Josh Allen mode, which I call Wyoming mode, because Josh Allen, even though he's not at Wyoming anymore, he thinks he has no help. And he's like, I got to do it all, guys, and tries to score a touchdown on every throw. And that's why he fails. Pat Mahomes there for a little bit had that problem as well. Like, I can do everything, guys. And he'd try to score a touchdown on every throw, and then he would fail. Showing this patience for Kansas City is such a lesson for everybody, but for Sean Payton and the Broncos, because that balance is the key. You didn't need to go into pass happy mode. You're down by 10. You're coming out of the half. Pat Mahomes is banged up, really banged up, looked really painful, wincing in pain, all those sorts of things. So what do? Short passes. You saw Juju Smith-Schuster kind of take off in the second half. First half, he had 3 targets, 1 catch, 5 yards. Second half, he got the rest of his, 7 for 60 or whatever it was. But like, that was all get the ball out of your hands quickly. Short passes is long handoffs. They went less to Travis Kelce. Kelce was big in the first half, and out of his 80 yards, I think 60 were in the first half, 81 yards. And then you ran the ball. You ran the ball with Isaiah Pacheco, who's the angriest, and he was getting his ass beat. He was getting beat up out there. Now, he usually brings that thunder, but man alive, there were 2 plays specifically where he got the wind knocked out of him. He was not concussed, thank goodness, but you see the hit was in his chest, got the wind knocked out, kind of down on one knee. I need a moment. Came back in, continued to play well. So balance the key. Stay balanced. There are very few times when you need to go into pass happy mode. And was it Vince Lombardi that said when you throw the ball, 3 things can happen and 2 of them are bad? Yeah, so keep running the ball. Adjustments are important. Second lesson, I wrote about that as well. Talked about Juju Smith-Schuster. Chiefs in the second half. 0 penalties, 0 turnovers, 0 punts, 0 sacked, 1 incompletion that was a throwaway. So that adjustment that they made from going from like, we're going to hit Travis Kelce and we're going to find Kelce, and no, they didn't need to. And they used other assets along the way. When you're seeing a Sky Moore, and I like Sky Moore. I remember telling Troy Rank, Denver 7. Love Troy. Troy's a very good man. Very good man. One of the best. I remember when he was like, remember Barry's? I remember when he was like, they lost Tyreek Hill. I was like, it doesn't matter. They have Sky Moore. And Sky Moore is not Tyreek Hill by any means. Sky Moore barely did anything as a rookie. He was hurt mostly. But you saw when he was in there, he was a weapon. In the first half, Sky Moore didn't get anything. Second half, got a touchdown. Kadarius Toney. First half, didn't do anything. Literally nothing. Second half, scored a touchdown. So those halftime adjustments certainly worked for Kansas City while they maintained their balance of running the ball. And then finally, I've said it before on this show, but it bears repeating, protection is a priority. Chiefs O-line held the Eagles pass rush to 0 sacks. All the Eagles did this year was hunt quarterbacks. That's all they did. And they were held to 0 sacks. So I go back and I look at the Saints, and I'm studying the spread concepts of Sean Payton right now. It's going to be part of my features this offseason at denversports.com. Who benefits the most from Sean Payton's hiring? These spread concepts have power elements to them. So it's not spread, because when I say spread, you're thinking like, oh my God, little guys and water bug receivers and all these. Not necessarily. He's had great success with large receivers. Marcus Colston, shout out Hofstra, Michael Thomas, certainly. So what does that mean for Timmy Pats? I think that could be very good. Anyway, so I'm writing and I'm studying the spread power concepts of Sean Payton. But my God, this offensive line is trash. This offensive line needs help. The number one thing that Sean Payton can do, and emphasize to George Payton, because I think George Paton is drafting for his job. I don't think George Paton has been very good to this point. I like him. I think he has an eye for talent. He's got to stop listening to other people when he's drafting. Russell Wilson, I don't care if you like Montreal Washington. Montreal Washington can't play, okay? Bottom line, the team spin and the team PR, the notes that were given to those in the media that would run with it. Remember training camp. Remember training camp. And remember Jake Shapiro's tweet. When I was going on about Isaiah Pacheco, and again, I'm not right about everything, but when I was saying Isaiah Pacheco in the 7th, because that guy is no good, what was the team PR telling people to say? And what were people running with on the radio? You know where that spins at. Newspapers, on blogs and articles. Man, Montreal Washington, man alive, him and Russell Wilson, look at this comment. And that was in August. It's February 13th. Look at where we are now. Montreal Washington didn't play the last 2 weeks because he's far from making an impact in the pros, if ever. And Isaiah Pacheco is a Super Bowl champion as their starter for most of the season. So you tell me, George Paton, you got to be better. But damn it, Sean Payton, you better make sure George is staring at offensive linemen. If you check in, you're leaving the facility at 7 p.m. at night, you're Sean Payton, you've been grinding all day, you walk over, you see the lights on in George Payton's office, knock, knock, always knock. Don't ever just open the door. Knock on the door, open it up. What you doing, George? I'm staring at offensive linemen. Good. See you tomorrow. Close the door. George Paton, your job is on the line. This Broncos team needs a better offensive line. And they need you to find that offensive line talent. It means in free agency, if that's the way you go, although that's not the answer. The answer is building your offensive line through the draft. You don't have a first-round pick. You don't have a second-round pick. You're drafting for your job. Good luck. Good luck. And that's the bottom line. Why do I go pro wrestler whenever I do solo shows? Mr. Tagliboo. Maybe I should cut down on my caffeine intake. Never. Anyway, it's Orange Blue today, everyone. Appreciate y'all for jumping on board with me. I am Chatty. I am Cecil Lammey. And Andrew Mason on vacation this week. So wish Mace well and get some rest, big guy. Until next time, be safe, be kind, know that you are appreciated. Stay tuned. And as always, I ask that you please stay frosty.